Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And guys, y'all, people, this wannabe tyrant, gun control extraordinaire, and New Mexico governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, she's doing more damage to the gun control narrative than any of us could have done in this amount of time, because she's at it again. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this one, because we are literally watching the demise and as Tim Pool says, the death throes of tyrants. Everything is linked, as I mentioned, and of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. All right, my brothers and sisters, so what we're about to cover broke on Friday. I didn't cover the breaking angle because I was talking about the Liberty fiasco that we uncovered. But when you look at what's gone on in New Mexico last week with the wannabe gun-controlling tyrant Governor Grisham, she basically jumped the shark on gun control, and all the other governors and Biden administration was like, "Hey, could you stop that? You're kind of letting the cat out of the bag a little bit." And then it culminated in a judge dishing out a temporary restraining order, or a TRO, which was a backhand to her the whole time. Meanwhile, she was completely unconstitutional, arrogant as the day is long, etc., etc., etc. We've been there. But now, she has amended the order. Not the way in which the order came about, which was the whole problem. No. She just changed after something else other gun control states are doing. Listen to this, because sensitive places is now on the chopping block the same way that her original order was. She's undermining their side. Let's keep going. Facing pushback from both parties, New Mexico governor scales back firearms order, and this article was published today from the New York Times. Now listen to this, and the key nuance here is not what she changed, it's how she's doing the exact same thing. This is the key. Then we'll tie it all together. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico on Friday scaled back a temporary public health order restricting the carrying of firearms in the Albuquerque metro area, limiting a ban to only parks and playgrounds. The initial ban, which was issued on September 8th and was to cover 30 days, had prohibited the carry of open and concealed firearms in a public area or state property. Again, it was temporary. It's only a temporary infringement of your rights. It's not a long-term infringement, so it's fine. Yeah, no, it's still not okay. In fact, the judge in the temporary restraining order, in his verbal order, he basically said, here's multiple citations of when court cases have deemed a limited amount of time of an infringement is still an infringement. You can't do what you're doing. So what she's done is she says, well, we're going to make a brand new order and overwrite that order that got thrown out in court, and this one's only going to be specific certain areas that we can deem sensitive places. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because the sensitive places narrative is something that the gun control regimes that had a may issue regime, and it was sensitive places, and you might get a concealed carry, you might not, all these different qualifications, well, they fell back on sensitive places. Now, one of the big key important things to understand here is while the wannabe tyrant is trying to follow the sensitive places move that the other states like New York, like New Jersey, California, like those states are doing, the only problem is those states, still unconstitutionally, by the way, they passed it through their legislature, which gives it a little bit more credence and a little bit more long-term on the actual resolution. It's longer in the court fight. This little wannabe tyrant in New Mexico, instead of saying, okay, I took an L, I jumped the shark, I did a little too much, she's doubling down and doing a different order in sensitive places in her area, but she's still doing it through the executive public health order. The exact same reason it got struck down originally. She clearly either missed the memo, is the most arrogant person on the planet, or she has tyrannical bent that will not be abated. She quite literally is undermining the gun control narrative step by step by step. In the first instance, she came out and said, this is what I'm going to do, and everyone was like, could you please stop? Now, she's coming out and saying, well, maybe not that, but those sensitive places, that sure is good, completely ignoring the idea that the whole problem is the executive order with no move from legislature at all, banning an entire Second Amendment right under a guise of a public health order, which is what the Democrats on the left have been talking about doing for at least a month and a half to 2 months around other things as well. She's doing more damage to the gun control narrative than I could do in a week. This is insane, but let's continue. Because even the Attorney General of New Mexico is saying the same thing. I encourage you to engage in more thoughtful and deliberative process with members of the New Mexico legislature rather than taking unilateral action that infringes on the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens, Mr. Torres wrote. And that's the important piece. If this had gone through the legislature, which I don't think she could get it passed in the legislature, that's one thing. Again, still unconstitutional. I'm not saying it's constitutional. It's still unconstitutional. But because she's going at it, as he said, in a unilateral fashion, which is what tyrants do, she's pointing out the flaws, the obvious flaws that everyone in the middle was like, no, you guys are crazy. They would never do that. That's just talking points and rhetoric. They're actively doing it. And when she gets shut down, she doubles down on the existing sensitive places of which those governors are going, could you please stop? She's undermining the entire narrative. I got one more thing for you. The temporary restraining order will remain in place until a hearing early next month. A spokesperson for the governor said she would fight to restore the provisions that were restricted by the judge. This is bordering on hubris at this point. Democrats have told her she's wrong. Her AGs told her she's wrong. Sheriffs, city municipality chiefs, labor union chiefs. Everybody on the frickin' planet has said she's wrong and out of bounds, including a judge. And her response is, well, I'm just going to keep on doing it. This is about her and her needs, desires, and aspirations. This is not about constitutionality. In my personal opinion, she needs to be impeached now. Prior, I didn't think it was going to happen. I was kind of on the fence on it. Yeah, she's doing a lot of damage being in place. But this doubling down, actually, this would be tripling down now. She's showing a lot of irresponsibility for executive power, and she's abusing a lot of written laws, particularly in the state of New Mexico. She's on grounds for impeachment at this point, and that's at least my thoughts. But let me know what you guys think. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this one.